Welcome to a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn to take. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Shared principles and the common language which can be formed around them will build the unshakable foundation for the coalition. That's what we need. We need to collaborate together to seek the justice in this world and in this decaying society that we are missing. And that is because there are tyrannical factors subverting our way of life. And that is the topic of discussion today here on Legacy News, episode 31. Before that, look below as it scrolls through whotouchedit.com. Go get yourself some nice, very credible political statements. Go show it out to the community. Get your copy, get your apparel, get your hoodie, get your shirt, and start making statements to try to get people to think critically. But with that, why is justice outlawed here in this world today, specifically in the West, pertaining towards the United States, as considering I am an American? I am the legacy of Jennifer and Kaiser. I'm Zachary Kaiser, and welcome in Andrew Joseph.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much, man. Not much. Just starting the Monday off right, man. Or as in this case, ending the Monday off right when you all listen to us at 5 p.m. Eastern. Listen, watch, whatever you want to do. I mean, put the earbuds in, turn on YouTube on the television, and go run the vacuum. I don't care what you do, as long as you're listening. Hate watch us. Yeah, hate watch us. Hate watch Andrew because he's bald. But with that, I know we're called Legacy News, but we're a different type of news agency. We're not striving for the clicks and the sweeps like every corporate media outlet, or even most of the independent journalists out there that just want to get monetized. We're here to give you a message. And that message starts with coming out of the shadows.
That's right. Here we go.
Right, Margot, won't you sit down? I told Albo to serve our coffee here in the library, unless you'd rather go on the terrace.
No, I prefer it here.
Then let me see you smile. That frown is most unbecoming.
Lamont, give it up.
Give what up, my dear? Drinking coffee?
I'm serious, Lamont Cranston. When I foolishly let you know that... Do you remember what you said? It will be exactly 5 years next week.
But there's still so much to do, Margot.
Well, then let somebody else do it. Don't you realize that you can't keep on like this forever? Someone's certain to identify you, and when that someone does, someone else is certain to kill you.
Perhaps, but until they do... Oh, darling, stop frowning.
I don't mean necessarily to give up your work, Lamont, but this other... Let the shadow just disappear and come out openly. Join the organized forces of law and police.
Won't you realize, Margot, that my entire usefulness to the organized forces of law and police lies in my remaining outside those forces, in remaining always the shadow? Would they approve my methods? Would they believe in my science?
You would make them believe. You could make them approve.
And in doing so, reveal my secrets, my knowledge. Reveal them and eventually let them fall into the hands of organized crime. No, Margot. No one must ever know. No one but you. Why do you think I've devoted countless hours to investigating electrical and chemical phenomena? Why do you think I went to India, to Egypt, to China? What do you think I studied in London, Paris, and Vienna? Except to learn the old mysteries that modern science has not yet rediscovered. The natural magic modern psychology is beginning to understand, and, well, magic that wouldn't seem so natural. I studied and learned for a purpose, my dear.
All right, Lamont, I realize all that. But now the entire underworld has but one objective: to erase the shadow. And to me, that means...
Until they know what the shadow is and who he is, what can they do? Stop and think how many criminals are either dead or in prison because of our activities. Why, even now, tonight, as we sit quietly here, somewhere, an innocent human being may be in desperate trouble. Somewhere, perhaps, there is a problem that can never be solved, except by the shadow. All right.
A problem that can never be solved except by the shadow. What does that mean to you, Andrew?
Well, it says it right there in the clip. It's entirely necessary for balance that one party must be able to out-compete the other and provide a better service and be able to do things extra legal to do so.
That's an interesting take, and that's an interesting take, honestly, considering this next clip, and this was dropped about a month ago, from everybody should know who this man is, specifically in the voluntarist realm, Larkin Rose. Because should we just drop into it, let him explain his take on it, or should we explain it more in depth before we drop into it?
I think I have to react, honestly, afterwards.
Let's react, because there's always a basis of counterbalance, because the state wants to use its monopoly against you, not for you.
Hey, Larkin Rose here. I often talk about the constant use of immoral violence by thugs of the state and how almost everything the state does is immoral and illegitimate, and all of it is violent, and that's nasty and bad. There's a weird aspect that I don't usually talk about. That's they even do the destructive thing on the flip side of that. And now that there's a bunch of stories out there, I mean, Harvey Weinstein was a while ago. But now you have lots of other powerful people that, golly gee, the whole P. Diddy bullshit and all the powerful slimy people getting caught doing powerful slimy stuff. Hunter Biden, you can't say he got caught. He videotaped himself breaking the law over and over again and posted it. And people went, hey, we're not allowed to do that. And then Biden pardoned him. So now, as a quick aside, it's kind of ironic that the things he was charged with were victimless crimes which shouldn't exist. And Hunter Biden wasn't charged with literally selling political violence to foreign countries. But now he's been pardoned for that, never charged with it, like something that's actually evil, like somebody illegally owns a gun or illegally like has a substance, like that isn't actually a reason to cage them anyway. But we got to see the total freaking double standard between the ruling class and normal people. But this video is about a strange anomaly of how, for all the times government uses immoral violence, they also fail to use force in some of the very tiny cases where somebody actually should. Now, it shouldn't be government. Government shouldn't exist at all. But even in the rare case where force would actually be justified against an actual aggressor or predator or something, government, a lot of the time, is on the wrong side. Defending, well, there's two ways they do it. One is literally defending the slime balls. For example, the whole drama with P. Diddy, I don't know all the details. I don't want to know all the details. It sounds like there's enough slimy slime that it's very unlikely to be slime-free. I don't really like being subjected in detail to all such slime. So, everybody apparently knew that was going on. His freak, or whatever the fuck he called them, demented shit. Everybody knew that was happening for years and years and years. Well, that's weird. Why did nothing happen? Huh. Just like everybody knew Harvey Weinstein was doing what he was doing. Why didn't anything happen to him for the longest time? Because they had money and connections to the machine that's supposed to do something about it when somebody is like victimizing minors and stuff. And the machine doesn't fucking care. They put on a show. We're here to protect you. No, they're not. They're here to subjugate and enslave you. Occasionally, they'll put on a show of, we're going after this murder or something. And they'll, speaking of putting on a show, they'll constantly throw out these boneheaded movies and TV shows pretending that what cops do is protect normal people. No, they fucking don't. And if you would believe your own eyes instead of freaking Hollywood, you know that. How many times have you seen cops actually stopping a bad guy? If it's even once, wow, good for you. Good for that cop at that very moment. Anybody stopping an actual violent oppressor. I don't mean bad guy like anybody who disagreed or disobeyed any of their stupid arbitrary laws. I mean somebody actually threatening or harming somebody else. There's like that big a chance that some of you have actually seen a cop using force to stop somebody in a situation where force was actually justified. How many of you have seen cops using violence, and the flashing red and blue lights are a threat of violence, to rob people for something that didn't hurt anybody? Oh, you didn't have the right sticker on your car, or your window tint. All of you, every single one of you. If you have internet, then you're close enough related to civilization. You have all seen cop behind somebody by the side of the road, and he's robbing them for doing something. Now, every once in a while, you can say, well, that guy was doing 120 in a 30 zone. So, like, maybe at some point negligence kicks in where, yeah, he should have been stopped. The vast majority of the time, you know that's not true. Like, people drive the speed everybody drives, and some happen to get caught by the predators hiding behind billboards. So they're just road pirates. That's what they actually do in real life. They pretend to protect and serve. They're protecting and serving the ruling class. Most of the people who watch my channel already know that. But when it comes to people actually doing evil, slimy things, and you hear about these actual big networks like Jeffrey Epstein that everybody knew about, and it involved a whole bunch of powerful political people, gee, how did that continue for so long? Gee, how did he get this sweetheart deal so that even when he was convicted, he got the sweetheart deal? Who appointed that guy? Yeah, that was Trump. that appointed that judge, what was it, head of state or something? State Department? I forget. But the judge who gave Epstein his sweetheart deal, he gave him a position high up in the federal government. Gee whiz, it's almost like those with connections to power mostly don't really have to worry about power being used against them, unless it gets out to the public so much that in order to save face, the ruling class has to take one of their slimeball friends and hang him out to dry to put on a show and act as if they give a shit about innocent people being victimized, when they don't. If they did, Epstein would have been in prison way before you had ever heard his name. Diddy would have been in prison way before you had heard about this drama, because somebody would come forward and say, this happened. All right, do we have evidence? Let's look into it. Instead of, oh, you got away with it and got away with it. Gee whiz, these people with tons of money keep getting away with like really evil shit over and over and over again. And only when it becomes this huge public thing that everybody's paying attention to, now all of a sudden law enforcement is looking into this. Oh, really? Was this the first time you heard about it? No, but now that everybody knows, we have to cover our asses, save face, and pretend we give a shit about this when we totally don't. We just don't like looking bad. And we look bad when our buddies who have connections to us have been getting away with this for so long that they get careless and then the whole world finds out about it. Whether you're talking Epstein or Diddy or whoever. So the one, that was like the longest tangent in history. So the one way they do it is literally directly protect and cover up. And we're not going to prosecute the people who are our buddies, which is like everybody in Congress and all the people they know, most of the people in Hollywood, lots of slimeball financial people, BlackRock, giant pile of slimeballs. There's a whole bunch of banking slimeballs who are in and out of government, and they get away with all sorts of crap until it comes to public notice. But there's also another aspect that's worth mentioning, which is if somebody is a slimeball and being a predator to children, like, which is so freaking bad that even in prison, the people who are there for murder are like, yeah, I murdered somebody, but if you're victimizing kids, you're an evil piece of shit. Even I know that, and I'm going to kill you. Like, child molesters have a very short life expectancy in prison. Good. And funny how they get away with it for so long, even when the allegations, like people are making the allegations and filing complaints, but for some reason it didn't go anywhere because the allegation is against somebody powerful with lots of influence and with powerful friends. Gee whiz. But in addition to that, you know who they will go after? You know who they will use the violence of state against? Normal people trying to make justice happen. And there's a number of stories. There's a very famous video. I do not know all the background details. I don't even know the guy's name. But there's a guy next to a row of payphones and a guy who was convicted of molesting his young son. He turns around and just shoots the guy right in front of when the cameras are rolling and kills him. Good for you. In a stateless society, it's been established that guy is guilty. He's been convicted. It's not up for debate. It's not, well, on a hunch or a guess, I did this. We all now have established beyond a reasonable doubt that evil piece of shit victimized a child. And the father of that child shot him and killed him. He did it in front of a bunch of cameras. In a stateless society, who would volunteer to prosecute that father? Nobody. Zero people. Zero decent, rational, moral human beings would say he should be locked up for a long time for killing the man who raped his son. Nobody would fucking say that. But government does. Now, the only hope is that normal people sitting on a jury will often say, yeah, but we don't really, I don't even know what became of that guy's case. And there have been other cases where the parent of a victim of one of these slimeball predators took the law into their own hands and killed him. Good. If you all the way know that somebody did that or is in the process of doing that, I would absolutely fucking kill him myself. And then government would go after me. Because you see, they don't just do a shitty job of making justice happen. They have to make sure that nobody else actually does a good job of it. So if anybody went after Epstein knowing what he did, and a shit ton of people knew that for a long time, government would have protected him from the people trying to do something about the fact that he's this slimeball predator. Same thing with Diddy. If somebody said, okay, it was my niece or something that was one of your victims, now I'm going to fucking kill you. Now, let's assume the person all the way knows it's true, because a rumor or an allegation isn't enough to justify force if you're not all the way sure. But if somebody all the way knows you did this, I'm going to hunt you down. You can bet the prosecution of the one who killed Diddy for that would be way faster than the prosecution of Diddy for actually doing that. And there are more examples than you could possibly want of exactly that happening. When somebody said, justice isn't happening, this evil slimeball, nobody's doing anything about it, the police don't care, like he has connections in the police, he has connections in politics, I'm going to do it myself. And suddenly those in power, we're outraged, we can't have this vigilante justice. Yeah, there isn't any justice, and you're making sure there isn't any justice. And the fact that not only do they fail to be a force for justice, but they actively are a force stopping other people from being a force for justice. How long is it going to take normal people to notice that and realize they're not just neutral? They don't just not do a good job of making justice happen. They actively put in time and effort and money to make sure justice doesn't happen. And if normal people make justice happen themselves, well, we can't have that. And I mean, there's a bazillion examples you can see when it comes to police abuse. We investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing. Like, we've all seen the video. That's called wrongdoing. You're like slowly torturing an unarmed man. That's really bad. Well, no, we investigated ourselves. What do you think would happen if somebody said, well, you know, I watched that cop. Nobody's denying it. Nobody's pretending the video wasn't real. I watched those cops beat that man to death who was begging for mercy. He wasn't armed. He wasn't fighting back. I'm going to go knock off those evil pieces of shit pigs. The moment someone did that, all of the resources of the ruling class would be after that guy for trying to make justice actually happen when the injustice came from part of the system. You know it. It's happened over and over again. You know that's what happened. Even statists, you know that is what would happen. If a cop got caught on video doing something just heinously evil, there was no question about what happened. There would be less of a rush, less of an emphasis, less resources thrown into doing something about that cop by those in power than there would be if somebody said, well, you're not going to do it. I'm going to knock him off myself. Bam. The resources they would throw into going after that guy would be immense. It would be overwhelming. It would just be a fascist nightmare until they found the person that dared to lift a hand against the sadistic psycho pig. You know that is the case, which means even all you statists know full well those in power care about those in power and nobody else. And not only do they not give the rest of us justice, they make sure we can't make justice happen either. How many more examples do you need of that? Epstein, Diddy, Hunter. The list is a mile long. There's actually an example of that in my novel, The Iron Web. Someday I hope that'll be a movie. Anyway, I wanted to do a video because I constantly bash government for using immoral violence. But they also deserve to be bashed for failing to use force on the rare occasion when it's actually justified, like going after actual aggressors and predators, and for using unjust violence against anybody else who, when they see that government isn't doing anything, tries to make justice happen themselves. Because government...
I have the perfect
Interesting.
quote for this whole the whole video. Hold on just a second.
Is it behind you?
No, it's not behind me.
Well,
Squat Pompey says, "Stop quoting laws to us. We carry swords." They're talking about during the civil. I'm just for people that are listening. It says during the civil war between Sulla and Marius, Pompey besieged a town in Messina in Sicily. The Roman governor protested that the siege was illegal on the Roman law. That was his reply.
interesting. Very interesting.
This has been a contradicting conflict of power for ever and ever and ever.
Mhm.
Before, this, I mean, they
kind of places that quote right there by Pompey kind of places the credibility of the original story of history of the Roman and Civil War that involved Pompey and Caesar. It kind of embellishes it more into the realist sense that it had nothing to do more so with the power hunger of Caesar or Pompey or whomever, but more of a decaying senatorial class. The Republic was on a down crunch because nobody wanted to relinquish the power that they had and the authority that they had gained through the essence of imperialist expansion as a republic. The Republic of Rome started just like the United States. Let's use the United States as an example, as a good example towards people taking back their authority from an overstretching imperialistic statist power. Parliament, the aristocracy of Britain, the crown, George III, whatever, whatever you look at it, right? But
this time will be different.
You give it, but then you give it, this time will be different, but then you outsource that authority to other men. And what do you think those other men, and I don't mean men as in man, I mean human, what do you think those men are going to do when they have that authority? They're going to make... No, go ahead.
They're going to work their asses off to serve the people that they're friends with so that they can get power themselves.
They're going to protect themselves. Exactly. They're going to establish their influence so that they can remain in power for generations. Even when they're long gone, there will still be their generational disposition. And that leads to a question.
I might have an answer.
Why is justice outlawed?
Justice is outlawed is because there's only one language, and that's the U.S. dollar, and there's no alternative to jump to because it's illegal.
That kind of makes the significance towards jumping towards more decentralized means and the blockchain technology that has been innovated over the last decade and a half as a proper means to escape.
They're slowing things down, but they're not stopping them. They can only spend so much money because the more they spend to try to reinforce their ideas, the more difficult it is for them to continue the spending because they're devaluing the money that they're using.
Will do. So, why does the state protect criminals there, Andrew?
because it gives them busy work and the justification for their existence.
So what you're saying is, and honestly, it doesn't make sense for like how the state of New York or the state of California has revised their laws, and New York and New York City has their bail reform. That though they needed it, it went ass backwards towards what it really meant for bail reform, right?
Yeah.
So like I guess we understand that the state is going to protect criminals within their own realm and bestow justice upon the normal people that seek justice in their own realm. But let's use New York for example. New York a few years ago, about the time during the pandemic, actually passed a law coinciding with their bail reform that was passed a year or two earlier under what was it? Was it De Blasio, the mayor of New York? I don't know if it was just a New York City bail reform ordinance or if it was in fact a state statute. But the state statutes reformed the law where you can shoplift under $1,000, and as long as it's doesn't pertain towards $1,000, it's under 1,000, you pretty much walk free. Or if you are caught, it's a misdemeanor. But when you have bail reform laws, because prisons and jails are so cram packed in population, you give them no recourse to post a bond or to order a bond to be posted, and they are free and let go, and they continue to do whatever they do because there's no consequences for their actions. When in fact, uh, they're inevitably guilty because they were caught red-handed, right? For the most part, many of these people are because they're stupid. So, in the essence of that, we understand that the state is going to protect their own and not the normal people. But why would they pass laws pertaining towards uh, stealing from businesses, small, medium, or large, doesn't matter, under 1,000, and people can get away with it? Basically, why would they permit looting?
Well, I think it's this way. It's the path of least resistance, and the fact that, you know, the more expensive something is, the harder it is to steal, and the harder it is to prove it in court, versus something that's cheap and you can just write it off on your taxes, which was a legal practice. I'm pretty sure it still is.
I'm sure.
And say it again.
I said I'm sure.
Yeah, and so instead of putting people in jail, hey, look, it's not pot for once. Put people in jail for shoplifting, and taking up precious resources, quote unquote, that they don't have. They can just, say, hey, well, write it off in your taxes. We don't have to put up with this. We don't have to, waste the money going after little things like this. That's the
It's also
working theory from my
Yeah,
point of
it's
view.
also very lucrative for the insurance companies because then you can abide by more subsidy for insurance, and then insurance companies who have cartelized, of course. There's only a few big ones. Can they can put in place stipulations in their premium contracts for these companies to issue out that. I mean, it's just a money making scheme, really. I mean, insurance in this realm is very lucrative because you know something's going to happen. You know these companies, these businesses, small, medium, or large, are going to have to uh, file a claim, and it can be pretty lucrative for everybody because then the insurance company, because of the claim and the payout, can raise rates for everybody else and make money elsewhere and continue their revenue stream. And then these business owners can basically just say, especially on the corporate sector, can basically say, "Well, we're done. We're done. We're done making business in this city, in this state. We're out of here. We're closing up shop." After they filed the claim, made their premium lucrative insurance insurance payment, and then they walk away, and then they can go establish somewhere else, or if it's a corporate chain, they can just focus in another niche, another neighborhood for that market, and ignore
What
the market that they left.
what
Very
the
lucrative.
way to look at it, compared to what you're saying, this is corporations have reached escape velocity, so they can afford to take the hit on things, and they'll make
Yeah.
it up in other territories where the issue
Yes.
isn't as prevalent.
But mom and pop's apothecary. I'm just using apothecary. Yeah. Say Franny and Freddie own a apothecary in the middle of Brooklyn. They've owned it for 30 years, still very small, still very locally endowed, community oriented. They're not going to be able to make it. CVS can have the insurance. They can even hire the security guards to cheapen the security of the insurance. And then once they file the claim on everything, exhausted all of that, they can shut it down and go focus on their other business needs in other niches of the market elsewhere in the state, the city, the state, the country, the world, because it's CVS. But Freddie and Franny's apothecary example, I don't know if there's an actual Freddie and Franny apothecary, but they're going to eventually have to just shutter it. Their business at 30 years, done. They can't make money. They keep on getting robbed. They can't afford the insurance to match the claims that they have to file. It keeps on going up. They can't afford as far as New York City, they can't afford the rent to stay open to begin with in their for their lease. So they're done. So what this does is it eats away the competition, and then it allows for the state to continue its expansion and create its dependency on a monopoly of violence, because the only issue eventually to try to stamp out this rampant crime wave is to expand a surveillance and police state, which effectively is what New York City has been and is evidently expanding more into. New York City is that is the goal. That's the experiment here in
It's
America
the
right
model.
now. It is.
It's a
the
working model.
Yeah. If it works in New York, if the police state works in New York, oh, it's coming to you. Believe it or not. But with that, Larkin discusses the hypocrisy of the state, and the fact that individuals on the lower level will never be able to get away with anything, specifically like pedophiles. They do make an example, even though pedophiles do get slapped on the wrist, even on the lowest of the low. Vigilante justice, if it does occur, say his example, the dad unaliving the perpetrator in handcuffs, is not permitted. The state needs to be the arbiter of justice, even though they really don't do any protection. But to go on that standard, why does our protectors, the state, the government, use the law on the basis of saving the children when we all know that the government is filled with a bunch of pedophiles?
It's because
What's with the hypocrisy? Shorten the question. What is with the hypocrisy of the state?
Well, it's like this. From my point of view, they sorry. Oh man. I'm having a brain fart. You have to forgive me. Swarm cam. That they use the marketing. They use marketing as a means to solicit people's emotional comfort for their dependents. So when they say they've caught somebody, it doesn't matter if it's somebody that just robbed a store or somebody who did what Larkin was talking about, That's any press is good press for them.
Very good. So why is this double standard held so much in regard to the state?
It's
I think
it's
you just
because
answered it, but expand on that.
it's because the people are trusted, right? The people that they catch that are the police officers and stuff like that, and when they do that, they're just send them to go get help.
Are you saying trust the experts?
Right? No, I'm just saying
Trust the experts.
I've I've heard about it. I've seen it. You know, people that I've known who were retired police officers. What they do is they'll take somebody who got caught, say a school bus driver who was a driver drunk on the job.
Mm.
They won't fire them. They'll send it to a different district where nobody knows what they did, and they'll say go back to work. Just don't say. Just keep your nose clean. Don't do anything stupid. You know, go back to work.
Mm.
And
Well, they don't. I mean, being from a family of attorneys, and my dad being a prosecutor for the last 15 years of his law career, there's something called, and the fact that my parents, when they got divorced, they had to do it in a different county. But in a lot of cases, dealt with public officials, especially, they will have something called a special counselship or a special prosecutor. They don't necessarily move them to another district. They bring in, it's easier actually to bring in another prosecutor to oversee the case in one county that's from another county. So, like, say the case occurred in Dearborn County, Indiana. It involves a police officer with some bad deeds. They bring in, and it's something that they're actually going to establish the case upon. They will bring in a special prosecutor, say from Franklin County, Indiana, that will come and work the circuit court case in Dearborn County. So they're not going to ship them to Franklin. It's a Dearborn County case, but they're going to have, since there's a conflict of interest, considering it's in Dearborn County, and it was a Dearborn County public official, they're going to bring in a prosecutor from Franklin County, or it could be Ripley County or whatever. So I don't care if I dox myself. I'm in Dearborn County, Indiana. Come at me, bitches. But yeah. But that's basically how it goes. So one final question as we close out, Andrew. Why do we tolerate the hypocrisy of justice with the state?
It's because, like the border territory, people will fight until they can't. They're too exhausted to fight anymore. It's the same principle, except for this time it's with money. If you don't have the money to fight it, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to solicit other people to help you fight it. They're just going to create another law that's similar, even if you do win in fighting the case, and you have to file a whole new lawsuit. They know that people's resources are limited and theirs are not, and so they can get away with it.
It all comes down to resources, right? They can either just expand the credit and print more money, and at the same time tax you to hell and back. They have that resources. The people are going to be held accountable on paying for those resources, because taxation is extortion. The mafia will win, and you're being taxed enough already working your little job in the Amazon warehouse. So, I mean, what are you going to do, man? You're paying bills and trying to stay afloat as inflation goes into overdrive, and the value of the purchasing power and the value of the dollar gets dwindled. You don't have time for this shit. You're too busy raising your family, paying bills, working your ass off as your savings is dwindled. You don't have any. At this point, why would I fight it? How could I fight it? You can't. And then on top of that, it's very difficult to attain the attorney because the privilege of the, even though the Sixth Amendment is quite clear, you have the right to counsel. Well, what does counsel mean? It doesn't mean licensed attorney. It means somebody who can effectively help argue your case. There was no concept of these licensing laws way back when the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were formed. Due process is you have the right to counselship. I mean, really. And people don't get that right because we've all outsourced to this fallacy that it has to be a licensed professional with a degree behind them. But in reality, if that were the case, then why would you're still allowed to defend yourself, am I right? So how can you defend yourself and be your own counsel if you choose to, if you're not licensed to practice law?
Right.
Positive positive law erodes your negative rights. And with that, anything else to explore or state, Andrew? We went kind of long.
Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next episode. Peace.
Live long and prosper. And don't forget, tonight, 8:30 p.m., Technically Trek returns after a week off. So check out Technically Trek to escape the realm of all this political bullshit and jump heavily into some fun, some wittiness, and some not so Trek yet mostly Trek conversation. That's at 8. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern, YouTube and X. And like, subscribe, and join the conversation with us. So, and at the same time, whotouchedit.com. Peace.